Some of these players were Pro Bowlers, some were just beginning their careers, and some were among the biggest stars football had ever seen. But they all had one thing in common. None of them knew they were about to take the final hit of their NFL career. These are 10 NFL hits that ended careers. And number 10 proves that a career-ending hit doesn't always look devastating when it happens. January 13th, 1991. Bo Jackson and the Raiders were facing the Cincinnati Bengals in the AFC divisional round. Jackson broke loose down the sideline before Bengals linebacker Kevin Walker dragged him down from behind. It looked like a routine tackle, but when Bo hit the ground, his hip dislocated.
Line of scrimmage, and Bo is...
The injury damaged the blood supply to the joint and eventually led to avascular necrosis. Bo would later return to professional baseball, but he never played another down in the NFL. One ordinary-looking tackle ended the football career of one of the greatest athletes America had ever seen. Number 9, Nick Collins. At just 28 years old, Collins was one of the best safeties in football. He had made 3 straight Pro Bowls and had just helped Green Bay win Super Bowl 45. Then, in Week 2 of the 2011 season against Carolina, everything changed. Collins came across the field to tackle Panthers running back Jonathan Stewart.
Get up is Nick Collins. He's down at the 30-yard line.
Collins immediately went down with a serious neck injury. The damage to his cervical spine eventually required fusion surgery. Collins wanted to return, but the Packers weren't willing to risk clearing him to play. He continued hoping for another opportunity, but it never came. Nick Collins never played another NFL snap. At only 28 years old, one tackle ended the career of a 3-time Pro Bowler. Number 8, Aaron Williams. October 23, 2016 would become the final game of his NFL career. Williams had already fought his way back from a serious neck injury that required surgery the year before. But against the Miami Dolphins, his comeback came to a sudden end. During a running play, Dolphins receiver Jarvis Landry came across the field and delivered a devastating crackback block. At just 26 years old, Aaron Williams had played his final NFL snap. Number 7, David Pollack. Pollack was only 24 years old and entering his second NFL season after Cincinnati selected him in the first round. Against the Cleveland Browns, Pollack came in to tackle running back Reuben Drowns.
Take a look here at the collision. Oh, he catches.
Pollack immediately went down. He had fractured a vertebra in his neck. The injury required surgery, and Pollack spent more than a year hoping he could eventually return to football. But the risk was too great. In 2008, David Pollack officially retired after playing just 24 NFL games. One tackle ended a career that had barely even started. 6, Ricardo Lockett. November 1st, 2015 would become the final game of his NFL career. The Seahawks were playing the Cowboys when Lockett lined up as a gunner on Seattle's punt team. As he sprinted downfield, Cowboys safety Jeff Heath came across to block him.
Lockett, a huge collision with Heath.
Lockett went down immediately and barely moved. The collision caused severe ligament damage in his neck, and doctors performed emergency surgery to stabilize his spine. Lockett survived the injury and eventually recovered, but doctors warned him that another major hit could put his life at risk. 6 months later, Ricardo Lockett retired from the NFL at just 29 years old. That was the last hit he would ever take on an NFL field. At number 5, Johnny Knox. December 18th, 2011 would become the final game of his NFL career. Knox was only 25 years old and had already established himself as one of the Bears' most explosive weapons. But against the Seattle Seahawks, a routine pass play turned into one of the most disturbing injuries in NFL history. Knox caught the ball, lost the fumble, and dove forward trying to recover it.
Johnny Knox. Fumble. Ball is loose.
As Knox dove for the football, Seattle defensive lineman Anthony Hargrove crashed into him from the opposite direction. Knox's body folded backward. He suffered a devastating spinal injury and underwent surgery the following day. Knox spent more than a year trying to recover, but his body never recovered enough for him to return to the NFL. At just 25 years old, Johnny Knox's career was over. A player known for his speed had taken his final NFL snap. Number 4, Ryan Shazier. Shazier was only 25 years old, already a two-time Pro Bowler and developing into one of the NFL's premier young linebackers. On Monday Night Football against the Cincinnati Bengals, Shazier came forward to tackle receiver Josh Malone.
On 2nd and 5, plenty of time for Dalton. They're short of the first down on the...
Shazier immediately reached for his lower back, and his legs weren't moving. He suffered a devastating spinal injury and underwent stabilization surgery just days later. But what happened next became bigger than football. Shazier spent months relearning how to walk, determined that he would someday make it back onto an NFL field. 5 months after the injury, he walked onto the stage at the NFL draft to announce Pittsburgh's first-round pick. But despite everything he overcame, Shazier would never play another NFL snap. At only 25 years old, one tackle ended what looked like the beginning of a special career. Number 3, Kevin Everett. September 9th, 2007 would become the final game of his NFL career. Buffalo was opening its season against the Denver Broncos when Everett sprinted downfield on the opening kickoff of the second half. He lowered his head as he attempted to tackle returner Dominic Hickson.
It gets up to the 10 to the 15. Hickson meets a brick wall of Buffalo defenders, and he goes down at the 21-yard line.
Everett hit the ground face first and didn't move. He had suffered a catastrophic cervical spinal cord injury. Doctors initially feared Everett could be permanently paralyzed, and there were serious concerns that he might never walk again. His NFL career was over instantly. But Kevin Everett's story didn't end on that field. Against the initial expectations, Everett regained movement and eventually learned to walk again. 1 year after the injury, he returned to Buffalo and walked back onto the same field where his NFL career had ended. Kevin Everett never played football again, but what he accomplished afterward was bigger than the game. Number 2, Mike Utley. November 17, 1991 would become the final game of his NFL career. The 25-year-old Lions offensive lineman was playing against the Los Angeles Rams when a seemingly ordinary pass play changed his life forever. Utley was blocking at the line of scrimmage when he was knocked off balance and came crashing down onto his head and neck. Utley had suffered a devastating spinal cord injury that left him paralyzed. But as doctors and trainers prepared to carry him from the field, Utley did something football fans would never forget. From the stretcher, he raised his hand and gave the crowd a thumbs up. That gesture became a symbol of his fight long after his football career was over. Utley would never play another NFL snap, but he dedicated his life after football to helping others living with spinal cord injuries. At just 25 years old, Mike Utley's NFL career ended on that field, but his fight was only beginning. And number 1, November 18th, 1985 would become the final game of his NFL career. By then, Theismann had already reached the top of the NFL. He was a Super Bowl champion, a former league MVP, and had spent more than a decade as Washington's quarterback. But on Monday Night Football against the New York Giants, one of the most famous careers in football came to an end. Washington called a flea flicker. Theismann got the ball back and looked downfield as Giants linebacker Lawrence Taylor came crashing in from behind.
Angle camera. He's looking deep, but he knows he's in trouble. Lawrence Taylor, number 56, right there. Carson is number 53. But it's Taylor over Carson. Slamming, and you see the right knee.
Theismann's right leg had been trapped underneath him. The impact shattered both his tibia and fibula. Lawrence Taylor saw the injury immediately and desperately began signaling for medical help. Theismann was taken from the field and his season was over. But at 36 years old, he still wasn't ready to give up football. He underwent surgery and spent months attempting to make a comeback. That comeback never happened. Joe Theismann never played another NFL snap. After 12 NFL seasons, a Super Bowl championship, and an MVP award, one gruesome play on Monday Night Football brought his career to an instant end. One hit, one moment, and football was never the same for Joe Theismann again. 10 players, 10 careers that changed in a matter of seconds. Every one of them entered that final game believing there would be another. There wasn't. Which career-ending hit do you remember the most? Let me know in the comments, and subscribe to Football Hits Hard for more NFL stories like this.